Okay, so today we're going to talk about circles. So on your circle sheet, make sure you write down the essential question. How do you write the equation of a circle? Remember throughout this, if you ever need to pause, go ahead and pause it so that you can write things down or work problems out when I ask you to pause, and then restart it when you're ready to go. Okay, so the definition of a circle. All points in a plane that are equidistant from a single point called the center. So that point is called the center. And then the circle part make up all the points that are equidistant from that single point. Now that distance, that they're all equidistant from the center, is called the radius. So the radius length is the distance. So that distance is called the radius. Standard formula of a circle is this, and so this again, the center will be at HK, so you do the opposite of what it looks like in there, and then R represents the radius, where R has to be greater than 0. You cannot have any negative radius measurement. Okay, so let's go ahead and work through this problem. So we want to find the center, find the radius, and then graph it. So here, when there's no parentheses here, what do you think the center is going to be at? 0, 0. Radius, now remember this is r squared. So r squared is equal to 5. So then what do you think that r is going to be? Yep, it's going to be the square root of 5. Now typically if you solve this, this would be positive or negative 5, but radical 5, but the negative answer does not make sense for radius. Okay, so now use that information to graph. So the center is at 0, 0, and then to get some other points, I'm just going to figure out what radical 5 is. Well, that's a little over 2 because the square root of 4 is 2. So then I'm going to come out about 2 and just a little past 2. That direction, in all directions, and then just sketch in the circle. Mine looks more like an oval, but it should be more of a circular figure. If yours looks like mine, I'm perfectly fine with that. So just have your center in there and then have 4 points out there in all 4 directions from the center. Okay? All right. Now this one, notice you have an x squared and an x term, a y squared and a y term, and then we have just the single number. So the first thing we need to do is move this single number over to the other side. So I'm going to minus 1. Then when I rewrite the things on this side, I'm going to rewrite them together. So x squared plus 2x. And then I'm actually going to leave a blank because we need to have parentheses squared, which is what our original problem says, is that we need to have parentheses squared, or it just needs to look like this problem where it's x squared plus y squared. Well, we don't have the just x squared plus y squared, so then we're going to have to do what we called in chapter 4, completing the square. So we will review that now. So I'm going to put the x squared and the x term together and then put plus blank, plus y squared, plus y, plus blank, because we have to complete the square here as well. And then that's going to equal -1, but I'm going to put the plus blanks here as well, because whatever I add to one side of the equation, I must add to the other side to balance the equation.
Please report to reception. Martin Hoffman, please report to reception.
Sorry about that. I'm recording after school and there's lots of announcements going on apparently. Okay, so to complete the square for x, remember that's when you do the b value divided by 2 and then we square that. So 2 divided by 2 is 1 and 1 squared is 1. So that means I'm going to add 1 for this part here. And so this x squared plus 2x plus 1 is going to be something in parentheses squared. Well, this something in there is what you got when you took the b divided by 2. So that'll be x plus 1 squared. So the x term I completed the square, so you take your b term and divide it by 2, and then square that number. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, 1 squared is 1. That tells you what goes in the parenthesis, and then it's squared. Okay, so now let's do the other piece. Change colors here. You know me, I like to color code. Okay, so here the b value is 1. So then I'm going to do 1 divided by 2 squared. Well, that's just going to be 1/2 squared, which comes out to be 1/4. So then I'm going to add 1/4 to both sides here. So this one, so then I'll have plus in parentheses squared this value. So y plus 1/4. Or, I'm sorry, this number, the 1/2. Sorry about that. It's going to be what you got when you divided by 2 in the parentheses squared. So that would be 1/2 there. And then that's going to equal, then you just sum all that up. So -1 plus 1 is 0, plus 1/4. So this is the first part, because on your homework they're going to ask you to write the standard form of the equation. Here they didn't, but they will on your homework. So now we can pick out the center. So where's my center going to be? So -1, comma -1/2. You do the opposites of the x and y in there, the parentheses. And then your radius, this is r squared. So then that means r is 1/2. Okay, so then go ahead and graph your center. This time it's at -1 and then -1/2. So the radius is pretty small, so we're going 1/2 out in all directions. So 1/2 there would be right there. 1/2 this way is about right there. And 1/2 is there. Actually, I think I went too far on that one, and 1/2. And then draw in your circle. So that's a pretty small circle when your radius is only 1/2. So completing the square is when you have, other than just x squared and y squared, we have the x and y terms here. So get rid of that constant term, then arrange them so that you can complete the squares, and whatever you add to the left side, you have to add to the right side as well. So go ahead and try part C. So go ahead and pause this so you can try that, and then turn back on when you're ready. Okay, so on this one I only have x's, so x squared plus 8x plus blank, so I can complete the square, plus y squared, that's alone, so that's good, and then that equals 20. So all we have to do is just complete the square for the x. So in doing that, I'm going to do b divided by 2 squared, so that's 4 squared, which is 16. So then I have to add that to both sides of my equation. So then hopefully you got x plus 4 squared is what that trinomial becomes, plus y squared equals 36. So then your center is at -4, 0, and then the radius is 6. So -4, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the circle's not going to look good on my freehand here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then sketch in your circle. Ugh. Okay. So I'll be pretty lenient about how you connect those points, but try and make it a circle if you can. Okay? Alright, so that's how you find the center and radius. If you may have to do a little bit of work to do that. Example 2, now I'm giving you some information, and I want you to write the equation of the circle that satisfies the given information. And you actually don't have to graph, because they didn't ask you to, so we're just doing this piece here. So then the center, I already know then my problem would look something like this, or my equation. I know I'm going to have x plus 1 squared and I have y minus 5 squared, but we don't know the radius squared yet. Now there's a couple different ways you can do this. Some people, because we know this is on the circle, so then they'll use the center and the circle and do distance formula, and that would give you r, and so then you would just have to square that to get r squared. Another school of thought is that you know these points, this is x and this is y, plug it into this, and that would actually then just give you r squared. So I'm going to do the second of the choices. So I'm going to plug in -4 for x and -6 for y. So then -4 plus 1 squared plus -6 minus 5 squared equals r squared. So this will come out to be -3 squared plus -11 squared equals r squared. Clean that up, so then -3 squared, 9, -11 squared, 121 equals r squared. So then when you add those, 130 equals r squared. So now you have enough to write your equation. So I go back up to what I had here. So x plus 1 squared plus y minus 5 squared equals this r squared, which is 130. So that's your equation, and that's all they asked you for this problem. Okay? Okay, part B. So we're writing the equation still. So what are the two important things that we need to be able to write the equation? Center is one of them, and radius is the other. Okay, so the endpoints of a diameter are given. So you got to remember what you know about a circle and from geometry. So the diameter are the endpoints of two radii put together. So then how could I use this to find the center? Now hopefully you're saying we could use the midpoint formula, because the center has to be in the midpoint, at the midpoint of the ends of any diameter, because they're equidistant from the center, from this point to the center and this point to the center. So we would do -1 plus 7 divided by 2, and 3 plus -5 divided by 2. So remember, midpoint is when you take the average of the x's and the average of the y's. So that would be 6 divided by 2 and -2 divided by 2. And so what is that? 3, -1. So your center is at 3, -1. So we could do what we did last time, where I know the center. So then that's going to be x minus 3 squared plus y plus 1 squared equals, we don't know, r squared. Then what? So then I could take one of these points and plug it in here to solve for r squared. So go ahead and take a moment and do that, and pause this so that you can work that out. Okay, so I'm going to use this one. It should not matter which one you use. So I'm going to do -1 minus 3 squared plus 3 plus 1 squared equals r squared. So that's -4 squared plus 4 squared plus, or equals, r squared. And so 16 plus 16 equals r squared, so that is 32. So then I come back up here, so x minus 3 squared plus y plus 1 squared equals r squared, which is 32. So there's your equation for that problem. Okay, so my time has run out for this one, so go ahead and click on the second video for circles, and that will wrap us up for letter C on this example. Now why don't you go ahead and start that while you're switching videos, So go ahead and work that out and then start